on this first edition of Retro Treasures. AC owns a really awesome retro gaming store called Rare and Classic Video Games. And just in that title alone, you can imagine what he has in his shop. Well, he gave me a call the other day and said, "Hey, Tyler, you've got to come down here. I got in my possession in the store, somebody sold me a Bonk's Adventure on NES. All right, guys, right now I'm headed over to my buddy AC's shop. He's got a cool retro video game store called Rare and Classic Video Games. And he just called me up a little bit ago to let me know that he got a original, authentic copy of Bonk's Adventure on the NES. And man, if you know me, I know my NES games, and that is one of the rarest and most sought after NES games. Bonk's Adventure on the NES was a late NES release by Hudson Soft. It was a port of the original TurboGrafx 16 game, which is a phenomenal TurboGrafx game. I myself was a huge TurboGrafx 16 collector back in the day. I had the original Bonk's trilogy. I had Bonk's Adventure, Bonk's Revenge, and I had Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure on the TurboGrafx CD system. Just the Bonk series in general is fantastic, great for collecting, and we're gonna look at one of the most collectible games in the series right now. This is one of those titles that really caught my eye when I was a kid, because I remember going into a Funcoland once, and I would always check, this was probably around 1994, 1995, and I was using my allowance money to buy NES games. I came to the point where I started realizing this is a rare game, even in the mid-90s when I was like 9 years old. I started realizing I don't see this game very often. This is a rare game. And I had a chance to buy it. I could have bought it with my allowance money at Funcoland, but I didn't. The guy showed it to me. I actually think I demoed it on the store kiosk, but I never bought it. I had the opportunity to buy Bonk's Adventure for $10 at Funcoland. I ended up going with some other game that I don't even remember which game it was, and so it's really, really frustrating to me, guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, could have had it for $10. Here's a chance for me to lay my eyes on yet another coveted copy. Pulling up to Rare and Classic Video Games. Let's see what it's all about. Let's see if it's in good condition. I'm really curious.
First of all, I got excited because it's a rare game, and for now it's one of the rarest games I have in my store for the NES. And yeah, man, he wanted cash. He had a couple of rare games, but that's the one I wanted for my store. He did bring it complete, but I said, man, can we work something out? Can I just get the cartridge? I don't want the manual in the box. And he's a good friend of mine, so he was like, yeah, go ahead, make me an offer. And I made him an offer, and he was happy with the offer. Like a year ago, man, I had it, but it wasn't like this high price. Man, I think by the time it was going around 400, 500. So of course, when I saw it, I knew I had to have it because the price went up, man. This is not a game that you often find in the wild, and when you do, it's extremely expensive. And AC, my man, he has the game in his store. It's so cool to know that, hey, this thing is still floating around. To actually hold the game again, AC handed it over to me and I held it in my hands, and I took this B-roll. This is where I keep all my rare stuff, man.
It was awesome. It brought me back to when I held it in my hands when I was 9 years old at Funcoland, and I could have bought it for $10. Almost bought this from Funcoland. Almost bought it, but I didn't, and it's crazy. So cool to see an authentic copy. Checking to make sure that it was a legit copy. Now, this is always something you have to do when you're NES collecting, because there are so many fraudulent copies that are floating around out there. And luckily, AC opened it up and it was legit. All right, so AC is opening up the Bonk's Adventure game cartridge. We're just gonna make sure, just show everybody, hey, this is the real deal. One of the rarest games just came through his store. And there's the EEPROM. It was an authentic, the EEPROMs were the right ones. Looks legit, guys, look at that. It was not a fake, this was the real deal.
Collectors don't want no reproduction games, man. We want the real deal. And when I was a collector, I used to get mad when I got a game thinking it was the real deal. Go home, open it was a repro, you can see the label. No, I just don't want no repros at the store. I want everything legit. And there's collectors that come with their own tool to open, make sure everything's real. I let them, hey. That way they know when they come here, they get the real deal.
Hey, you think we can pop this baby in?
Yeah, man, for sure. Of course. As a collector, man, my advice is always buy it at the store so that we see it in person and could test it. Because I've had some people buy online and then they come to me like, hey, can you test this for me? It's not working. I bought it online and all this. They send me the wrong copy or the wrong game. It don't work.
It's working.
So my advice as a collector, if you're gonna buy something rare, make sure you go in person to a store. That way you could test it, open it, and make sure it's the real deal.
There's my old buddy Bonk. Great port. This was a great port of the TurboGrafx game on the...
Yeah, it looks real good for an NES game. Kind of reminds me of Adventure Island.
Yeah, well, Hudson Soft, it's funny you say that. Hudson Soft, made Bonk's Adventure just like they made Adventure Island. So same game company, Hudson Soft. Bonk's Adventure on the NES, as a retro treasure, I'm always going to treasure the memory I have of almost buying this game at Funcoland back in 1994, 1995 with my allowance money. I almost handed it over to the store clerk and I almost took with me a retro treasure, but I didn't end up doing that. In fact, it became one of the biggest retro collecting regrets of my retro life. That was the first time I've held that cartridge in a very long time. Probably back since 1994, 1995 when I played it at Funcoland. But man, what a rare game. Definitely one I always wanted to collect but never did, and probably never will with the going price on that sucker. But it's definitely cool visiting a video game shop like Rare and Classic Video Games and finding these awesome retro treasures.
Hey man, happy man, excited. One of the rarest games for the NES in my store. Looking nice in my display next to my other rare games. It makes me happy, it looks good. It's
so cool that the game is still out there, and if you know collectors or if you know retro gaming shops or you go to conventions and they have this title, there's still a way you can obtain it. There's still a way you can see it and hold it in your hands or play it. Because Bonk's Adventure, it's not going anywhere. So my advice to you is either wait for that perfect copy to arrive on eBay that you get a good price for it, find it in the wild, or buy it at a collector's shop like Rare and Classic Video Games. This might be one you want to take home and play for a little while before you sell it, huh?
Yeah, man, maybe beat it and then bring it back, or might find love with it and keep it in my collection.
Hey, don't look now, but Pierce Brosnan's eyeing your Bonk's Adventure. In my journey to find retro treasures, Bonk's Adventure on the NES is the first game I've unearthed. What other rare video games will I discover out there? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.